Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to Teagasc Ballyhaise Agricultural College, County Cavan, Ireland. My name's John Kelly and I'm the college principal. We have a busy hour ahead. We will rejoin our teachers, some of our students. We get a tour of our college campus here and a taste of Irish culture. A big thank you to our musicians, Kieran here on my left and his brother Shane, and Aoife, and our dancers, Ciara and her brother Ronan. Aoife, you can tell us a little bit about your instrument.
Yeah, so this is the button accordion. It's a traditional Irish instrument and I've been playing it for about 10 or 12 years. So.
Very good. And Shane here on my left is actually one of our students, and we'll join up with Shane shortly. And Ciara, can you tell us a little bit about the Irish dance that you're after doing?
Yeah, we're after doing a reel there, so it's a traditional Irish dance.
Yes, and it takes a lot, there's a lot of energy involved in that. I can see you're out of breath. And how long have you been dancing for?
About 15 years.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have two main college enterprises here in the college: agriculture, which we'll catch up with you shortly in the studio, and forestry. And I'd now like to hand you over to the assistant principal, Marianne Lyons.
Good afternoon and welcome to Ballyhaise. I'm going to ask Shane to come down here and join me. Shane has just completed a 2-year course in the Advanced Certificate in Forestry. And as we make our way into the studio, we're going to show you a short clip of Shane in action on the course over the last few months.
My name's Shane McGuire. I come from Co Cavan, County Monaghan. I always had a love for forestry at a young age, maybe I was 13 or 14. I worked with a neighbour for a while, blocking firewood, and he was cutting a few trees. When I finished 6th year in secondary school, I got interested and I seen Ballyhaise forestry crop up. It seemed very hands-on, and as soon as I got into it, it was great. We got the chainsaw course done maybe in the first month and just went from there. It was great. So it was level 5 forestry. We covered a lot. It was like high pruning, formative shaping, planting trees, thinning in forests, the likes of that. It was very hands-on and it was a good practical course. What we learned was all the different types of trees, and that was very interesting because there's some of the trees I hadn't knew at the time, and it was very interesting to learn more about them. And staff and everybody around Ballyhaise is very friendly, all very friendly. Made lots of friends. Forestry wouldn't be a big community, so you know each other and you all get on well. The facilities, great forestry room, the workshop, and then outside more trees and forestry and bits of forest walks and different things like that. I used the forestry simulator, the forwarder and the harvester simulator. It was very good. It was very hands-on as well. Very much like a real machine. It was very interesting and a bit of crack to use as well at the same time. I'm actually it's a tree surgeon. I'm climbing trees and pruning trees and a bit of a groundsman as well, doing a bit of chipping and stuff like that, wood chipping. And chainsaw work, a bit of cutting trees or ringing or blocking or stuff like that. I've only recently got a job offer for being a harvest manager down in Wicklow. They're based in Wicklow. They're looking for somebody around Tipperary. I've got the job offer and it'll be interesting to see what it's like. I really enjoyed my time in Ballyhaise. It was great. It was a great learning experience. So it was. I knew nothing about forestry really when I was going in, and there's a lot more things that I know now.
Welcome back, and we're live in the studio. And Shane, just before we talk about the video that we've just seen there, I just want to comment on the really wonderful music that we heard a little while ago. Can you just tell me just how long have you been playing and what other instruments do you play?
Yeah, well, I've been playing the banjos since I was about 8 or 9, and you'll see I play the guitar later on, and I play the Keeley band drums and the mandolin too. And
when did you start?
When I started playing the whistle when I was 4 or 5, I'd say, yeah.
Okay.
And went on from there.
And presumably your COVID interfered with that as well, did it?
It did, yeah. We were doing gigs and wedding receptions and pubs as well, so that all came to a stop as well.
And has it opened up at all now in the last while, or is there anything on the horizon?
Not really. Well, it's coming close, hopefully, but nothing yet.
And as you said, we'll hear from you and the others. You'll be out on later on too. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
So in the video we saw you were talking about the placement, and on your first placement in first year last year, when COVID kicked in, when you were halfway through the placement, how did that affect you? Because you were away from the college, and yet the whole situation changed midway.
Yeah, well, I was working with a tree surgeon and he stopped his job, so I was kind of left idle, and then you rang me, I'd say 2 weeks into it, and you got me a job that was very close to where I was living.
Oh yeah, there was, so we were in a really weird situation where the students weren't allowed to finish their placement, but yet agriculture and forestry were considered essential services, so you could do other work outside of the placement.
That's right, yeah.
And so actually there's a question there about were students able to do their placement since then? So we have been able to open it up, and you did your second year placement then, your 12-week placement after this.
That was the end of last year. End of last year and start of this year, so it was, I done work with a tree surgeon as well, and I had my climate ticket. And
okay, and were there any, what kind of precautions did you take then? Because it was still kind of semi...
Oh yeah, it was only 1 to 2 people per van, and travel to work on your own and keep your distance from everybody else.
Yeah.
It was hard to work around, but you had to work around it.
Yeah,
you know.
difficult to manage.
Yeah.
And just what about now? So you finished the 2-year course, the advanced level 6, and you've got a new job. So tell me a little bit about that and who you're working for and what you do.
Yeah, I'm working for Forestry Services Limited. They're based in Kilkenny, but I'm myself is based in Carrick-on-Shannon, and work in that northwest sort of area. So I'm doing managing the establishment phase in forestry, the likes of mounding and drainage, and get the planting organised, and the 4-year management plan and stuff like that. And
what did you do on the course here that you would now use in day-to-day work?
Yeah, well, we did learn how to plant, and shown what way the plants were put in, and fencing and stuff like that, and then it was coming around to plots and timber plots and measurement and all stuff like that.
And I suppose you're not actually planting now, you're coordinating and contractors.
Getting contractors organised and showing them sites and sending them maps, and ordering the plants as well from Quilcha and Hardy and stuff like that.
Okay, so a wide range of different jobs.
Yeah.
And do you think COVID has impacted the job market then?
Definitely, yeah. A lot of people have seen that forestry and agriculture never stopped during COVID, so there's a lot of work going on in there. So there's.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's one thing, that there doesn't seem to be any shortage, is there, of work?
No, it's plenty there. So
and you were able to continue basically all the way through. So yeah, that's great, and hopefully now we'll see Shane later on playing some more music. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to John, and he's going to give a tour of the campus and meet some of the staff as well.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you around our historic house. This is an Ulster plantation estate, and that's a term that we use for land that was taken over in the early 1600s by settlers that came generally from the north of England and the south of Scotland, and eventually they built big houses on these estates, and that's very common in this region of Ireland, and this is one of those houses. I'm going to take you inside now. First thing I'd like you to notice is the big heavy cast iron door. All the shutters and doors are cast iron, and that was to do with the history. When these big houses were built, there was quite unstable politics at the time, and the owners had to have security that protected them, and hence the cast iron doors. We're in our entrance hall. Beautiful vaulted ceilings throughout the house, the basement, the middle floor and the top. There's very little structural timber in the house. On the floor we have a beautiful limestone floor, and we've black limestone on the floor that basically was taken from Kilkenny, the south of Ireland, and it's unique for its black limestone, which is called Kilkenny marble. The fireplace similarly was that. And that's quite amazing that they've done that, to be able to bring stone from the other end of the country to build these houses. I'm going to take you across to one of our wings. Each side of the house was extended in the 1800s. The first room that we have here is the Annalise room. We use the Annalise room as a meeting room. These are beautiful big rooms that again would have been drawing rooms where the families would have relaxed and enjoyed their leisure time in these rooms. We now use this as a meeting room, so we're very lucky to have a meeting room that's over 150 years old. You can see the beautiful windows and the view. The house faces the east. It captures all the morning sun, and the sun sets then obviously at the other side. So these houses were narrow and long, so they give the effect that they were much bigger than they actually are. So they're generally one room deep. So I'm going to walk across to the other side of the house. We have our advisory office here on the right hand side. One of our outbuildings has been renovated, and basically we house our advisors and our researchers in that building. So the next room I'd like to show you is here. It's called the round room. The architect of this house was a very famous German architect called Richard Castles, and he'd done all his work in Ireland in the early 1700s and designed most of the famous buildings in this country from that time, the most famous of which is our Parliament building called Leinster House in Dublin. The interesting story about this room, it's a round room, and another architect, a famous Irish architect, was called James Hoban from Callan and Kilkenny. And James Hoban moved to America and designed the White House. James Hoban would have got his inspiration from the work of Richard Castles and the big houses in Ireland that were predated by 70 years, the White House. So we've got our own round room. The White House has got the Oval Office. So there's not a doubt in the world that this would have been an inspiration for the Oval Office in the White House in America. So now I'm going to move along to the other side of the house. And on the way, I'm going to take you in here to see the Peacock Room. And the Peacock Room is of national significance from a heritage perspective. So we have these houses and in Teagasc that we look after, and we have numerous properties like this, and we have kept them in pristine condition. So this room hasn't been changed since it was less decorated over 150 years ago. We have wallpaper that's hand painted with peacocks, and hence the name of the room. And then we also have the original fireplace, and we use this room for meetings. Another interesting thing I'd point out to you is the photographs on the wall. These are photographs that were given to us by the last people that left the house from their families, so they're over 150 years old photographs, pictures of horses. They were taken yesterday, so it's beautiful to have that collection. We'll move across past our Cantilever stairwell. This is a complicated house and very old. We have a lot of traffic with our students, so it is complicated to look after. So one of the things we're doing at the minute is looking how we're going to reinforce the stairs to cater for the student traffic. We have a new roof on the house with Welsh slate and a lot of lead to keep it watertight. This is our classroom. We call it Classroom 3. And this room, as you see, is capturing the sun now. As the day progresses, this room captures the sun. Would have been another drawing room used by the family, but we use it as a classroom. This has been a classroom right since the Ag College opened in the early 1900s. And it's very, very important to us to have this room, and the history of it doesn't go unnoticed. We've been teaching students here every year since the college opened. We have beautiful ceiling rosing. We have beautiful windows that are original to the house. And to think that other than with the exception of World War I, when the college had to close due to cutbacks, that there's been students here every year, it is something that we're very proud of. So I'm now going to take you outside to have a look at our outbuildings. So that's our house. I'm just coming out of the basement into our beautiful courtyard here. Back when the college opened in 1906, the college would have been horses. There would have been very little mechanisation. So our courtyard would have been stable yards. What we've done in the meantime is we've converted them into student facilities, classrooms, locker rooms, and student accommodation. Here on my left you'll see outdoor seating. We've actually got more outdoor seating throughout COVID because it's been very useful for taking classes outside, much safer than being in our classrooms where restrictions didn't allow us to be. Behind me you'll see the Clocktower. The Clocktower dates back to the 1800s as well, and the clock is in working condition. We've just upgraded the winding up mechanism to electric. Behind me you'll see the house. It's 3 floors from this side at the front. When you seen me earlier it was 2 floors, so it's 2 floors over a basement. And here on my left you'll see the canteen that forms the 4th wall of our courtyard. So now I'm just going to get into the Jeep and we're going to go for a drive around our college enterprises. Okay, so because the college is so big, we do need the college Jeep to get around. So we're just going to start up here and take a tour of the farm enterprises around the college. So we'll just drive out of this courtyard. And on the right hand side we have a modern building that forms the 2nd courtyard. That's where our main reception and 2 of our larger classrooms are. And we're going to drive up now past this courtyard, and ahead of me you'll see the main forestry school, which again some of the old refurbished buildings that would have been here for hundreds of years, and they're all in reuse. The forestry classrooms used extensively for delivering our forestry training, the practical training in the college. So the first place we'll just stop here is the machinery training workshops, and they're here on our left, and we'll just get out and see what they're at here. Hi everybody.
Morning, John.
Hello. Right, Andrew. Hey John. So John Delaney is one of our machinery technicians here, and John, you might just give us a brief overview of what you're at this morning.
Okay, we have a group of students in on tractor skills, so some of them are doing tractor skills, tractor driving in the backyard, and the other group are doing what we refer to as new tractor technology. So in Ballyhaise we've embraced the new technology. We've got this tractor here, it's got headland management system on it, it's got auto steer, auto guidance, and it's also the first IVT tractor in Ballyhaise ever, infinitely variable transmission compared to our other tractors which are all power shifts.
And what's that sitting on the weight block, John?
That's the receiver for the guidance system, so it goes on top of the cab and is plugged into the tractor, and that picks up the signal, and we can get down to about 2 centimetres of accuracy with this system here.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that, John. And I know you have exams coming up over the next few weeks on tractors once you have the training done, so the best of luck with that. See you all. Thank you. So now we're going to take a drive up through the heart of our farmyard, and we'll see some of our farmyard facilities, and we're going to go to the highest part of the college to get a view of the campus. This is our own internal private roadway that takes you up from the main classrooms to the farmyard. Here on the right you'll see the walkways that we have, and these are ornamental walkways dating back to when the house was built and the gardens were set up. And interestingly we have an ice house that's part of the walkway there, and they imported ice back in the 1800s from Scandinavia, and that was their fridge of their day, long before they had electricity. Because it was such a deep pit, the ice wouldn't melt for ages, and it was a very effective way of storing food. Okay, so ahead of me you'll see John Pat, one of our farm operatives. He's getting ready to spread protected urea on some of our pasture. Hey John Pat. And then that's our machinery storage shed where we park our machinery at night when it's not in use. Here on the right then we have our sheep unit, and that's our wintering facilities, where we keep our sheep throughout the winter. And then here again on my right we have our heifer cubicle shed. It's a wintering house as well where we put stock during the winter. Then on our left you'll have our milking parlour and main cubicle house. And then here on the right again we have our calf rearing facility where we rear calves in the spring. Now the yard's very quiet at present because our stock are all out on pasture. This is our grazing season, so right from February stock starts to go out and graze on our pasture. On our right there you'll see our cubicle house. We built that recently with underground slurry storage, which stocks our dairy cows through the winter. So we'll just move our way along the roadway here and just take my time, and we'll come up to the barrier and let the barrier open, and we'll go on to a public roadway again that goes right through the heart of our college. So just take my time going out on the road here. One thing that's very evident in our landscape here is this time of year, May and June, the trees are in full bloom, and again the summer flowers are coming out, and our verges are very rich in biodiversity. When we move into one of our internal roadways again, you'll see the paddock layout that we have on the farm. So our farm is divided into relatively small sections that facilitate effective grazing. These fields on our left have been reseeded recently in the last month, and we'll talk shortly to one of my staff members about the reseeding that's going on here. We have to constantly rejuvenate our pasture, and every year we would have a small section of it that's replanted, and we rotate that throughout the whole farm. On our roadway here, they're very important from an animal movement perspective. So to graze grass, we call it utilisation. You don't want to waste any grass, and particularly at the shoulders of the year, in the spring and the autumn, you need roadways to get animals to the pasture and not damage the pasture while they move to it. So the roadways allow the animals to walk to where the grass is. The animals graze the grass, and then they move on when that field is grazed to the next field. So you can see both left and right here now that we have grazing reseeded in the last few weeks. The college is interlaced with forestry, and you'll see that throughout the tour, that there's trees planted in various places. With the drumlands, with these hills, there's generally a section of it that's too steep to graze or operate machinery on. So what we've done in those sections is planted trees. So we've 47 hectares of trees planted throughout the college, and that's a very effective use of the land. It also then improves the biodiversity that we have throughout the farm. Our verges are interesting. Traditionally we would have kept them trimmed and sprayed, but more recent years we've taken the approach that we let them grow out and flower, and that increases the opportunities for biodiversity and wildlife corridors throughout the farm. You'll see the electric fences that are over the verges, and we do have to keep them trimmed when they start to interfere with the electric fence. We have 2 strands of electric fence along the road here to keep calves in, which you'll just see shortly when we get to the top of the hill. So this is the end of the roadway once we get to the top here, and animals are able to use these roadways to move around, and we have gaps in the fence that let animals move in and out of our pasture. So we'll just go out and talk to one of our staff members here. Hi Noel, how are you? There's a few showers, I wasn't expecting them this morning, Noel.
No, they're far away.
So Noel, you're our dairy livestock technician here. You just tell us about what you do.
So my main principle, or part of my job is educating the main level 5 and level 6 course, and also we're connected with Dundalk IT, so delivering the dairy skills to the first and second year of that programme. Okay,
very good. And what are you at here this morning?
So we're just feeding the calves. These calves were turned out in the last number of weeks, so we're still supplementing with ration and grass.
Yeah, and what calves are they?
So these are 43 dairy replacement heifers, so all going well, hopefully to be milking in our dairy herd in 2 years' time.
Yes, okay. And just you mentioned the grass. Why are those fields brown down below?
So as part of the milking platform, we're in major program. We're doing major reseeding program over the next 4 years, and we're incorporating clover into the sward. So we're in the middle of reseeding that at the minute.
Okay, and I noticed behind the hedgerow here, we've done some work there, Noel.
Yeah, so 3 years ago we rejuvenated the hedgerow, and we planted some hawthorn and whitethorn into the hedge to improve the biodiversity on the farm.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Noel, and talk to you soon. Okay, so you can see behind us now the view that we have here, and I'll just turn around and give you a few ideas of what we have. So the hills in the background, you can look closely, you'll see our dairy cows, which is our dairy unit from here right through to that hill, and then towards the left and the sheds, and the left of the sheds we have our beef unit. We're going to drive now to our beef unit down through one of our fields here and see what they're at in our beef unit. So I'll just get back into the Jeep and we'll move on. Okay, so the field we're going to drive across now is called Killen Park. And in Ireland, we do name our fields generally. Now, they also have a number. Killen Park is an interesting name because we had lime kilns throughout Ireland where they used to fire limestone to make ground lime for putting on the lamb to improve the pH. And there would have been a lime kiln on this farm at some point, and hence the name of this field, Killen Park. You do get a beautiful view of the river here, driving down this hill, the Lee, and that meanders its way through the college here. And that's a tributary of the River Erne, which is one of the major rivers in the northern half of Ireland and flows the whole way to County Donegal. The field in front of us is called the Wood Field, and it's actually one of my favourite fields because the trees that have been planted there are a couple of 100 years old. There's the most beautiful oak tree, which you'll see on my left as we drive out of this field. And that field has beautiful specimen trees throughout. So a gorgeous, gorgeous field and full of biodiversity. And beyond that you'll see a very substantial oak wood as well, and that's what it's called, oak wood. So we're back onto one of our farm roadways. And again, these roadways are used for moving livestock to get into the various paddocks that we have around the farm. You'll see either side of me now the foxgloves and the beautiful flowers that flower at this time of year, and whin bushes. And as I said, we have a different approach to those now, that we encourage them to flower and grow. When we get off this bumpy road, we'll be onto in between the reseeded fields that we're planning to reseed next. And before we're reseeding, that we spray off the old pasture. When we come to reseed these fields, they won't be ploughed. They will get a disc cultivator and power harrow, and then the seed will be broadcast. And as well as the grass seed, we've just said there'll be clover planted with the grass seed. Either side of these fields then we've plantations. So we have commercial forestry on my left, and then on the right hand side we have continuous cover forestry that's been planted in recent years after the commercial crop had been taken off about 6 years ago. Water troughs are important. You'll see them on either side. So every field has to have water troughs, and in many cases more than one water trough, because we can strip off these fields and make them smaller depending on the time of year and the amount of grazing that we want to do. So there's lots and lots of water troughs, and it's very important for our dairy animals, any of our animals, to have good access to water as part of their grazing throughout the farm. So we've just come to the bottom now, so we've had a view the whole way down, and we're just coming out off our farm roadways and back onto again one of the public roadways that cuts its way through our campus. You'll see ahead we've done a circle, the main farmyard's straight ahead of me at this point. So again, I just have to take my time going out here because it is a public road, so bear with me. So now we're just driving into our beef unit, and we're going to have a talk with some of our staff here that are working with animals on our beef unit. So I'll just drive up here and get parked, and we'll join them. Hi Cyril. Hi Damien, how are you? So Damien, you're one of our livestock technicians here. Maybe just tell us a little bit about your job and what you do with students.
Well, my job is to do tutorials with the students here.
On skills? On
the skills, yeah.
Very.
So with me here. Groups of them come here about 10 at a time, and we have them for about 4 sessions each group throughout the course of the term. Okay, very good, very good. And just maybe tell us about the enterprise that you look after here as well. Suckler enterprise here is 40 cow suckers that calve down in the springtime. Yes. And these animals that you're working with today? Yeah, well, there's breeding season has started just now, and we're picking these here out as replacement stock. Right, very good. So these are going to be going into the herd hopefully this time next year. Yeah. And why are they in the handle unit today? Well, we're going to weigh them today, and we're going to do them maybe for leptospirosis as well. Okay, very good. That's great. Okay, thanks for that, Damien. Thanks, Cyril. Okay, so now we're just going to go out to our last enterprise, our sheep enterprise. So we'll get back into the Jeep and we'll move on out across the college again. So for our sheep enterprise, we will drive right back through the college and out the college front gates. Okay, we're just going to go out the front gates of the college here. Now you'll have to bear with me. This is a main road and it'll just take me a second to get out. Although the campus is very large,
there's a lot of public roads around that divide up our property, so we've had to build a lot of farm roadways to minimise the amount of use that we have to put our own animals across public roads. And that's one of these roads that I'm going to go on now to your left. We'll just take it nice and easy because there's quite a big severe bump coming in here. Okay, so if you look out my right hand side, you'll see the start of our sheep unit. And what we've done is we've made a big effort in the college to improve our biodiversity, and what you'll see is examples of our tree planting. Over on the far right hand side, out on my right hand side, you'll see some of our agroforestry. We've quite a significant amount of agroforestry plots around the campus now. So that means that livestock graze around the trees that we've planted. And then along the fence line here, you'll also see specimen trees that we've planted. It's generally a mixture of oak and cherry and other native tree varieties. So as I move through here, large part of our college campus is forestry, and here on my right hand side now you'll see one of these forests, and this is an oak forest, and then to the sides of that we've some commercial forestry crops growing as well. This is one of our drumlins, so you've quite steep rise up the hill to the top of a drumlin, and that's, as you'll see in the other parts of the college, very common here. And we're right through one of the heart of our forests here, and you see all the oak trees on our right hand side. And I'm taking you up to our sheep handling unit at the top of this hill. It's quite bumpy here. This livestock fencing has to be very, very good condition to be able to make sure livestock is secure when they're moving and around our farm. It's absolutely critical, so we do a lot of improvement in our fencing every year. So here we are, so I'm just going to take you out now to the van. I'll park up here, get it out of gear and knock off the engine, and we'll have a walk out and see what's going on here in Raheg, our sheep handling unit. Hi Niall. Hi John. How are you? Hi Jared. Okay, so I've just brought our viewers out to see our sheep handling unit, Niall, and it's very important to be able to have our animals out in grass, to have these units. Can you just explain the importance of this one?
Yes, so this one here is very important as it's located in the centre of the sheep farm and the grassland farm here. You've got easy of access through laneways coming up into it. It is a one-man unit, and you've got all the great systems inside between drafting areas, handling areas. If you want to weigh lambs, dose lambs, you can do all that. And there's a dipping tank in it, a footback tank, so you have everything you can do on your own. And our stock's at grass at the minute, so what would you be bringing them into a unit like this for this time of year? This time of year, the lambs will be weighed regularly, they'll be dosed, and then the one we're doing now today is we're putting Poron on the lambs for the prevention of blowfly strike. Okay, that's great. Thanks for that, Niall. Thank you. Okay, so we're just going to have a walk around just to get an advantage of the unit here. As I say, it's a standalone unit. The public road that we crossed separates it from the rest of our farm, and these roadways are really important to be able to move livestock around. Utilising grass, as in all our enterprises, is absolutely key. We talked about the history, and the campus dates back to the 1600s. That's this estate, but over to my right, amongst these trees, there's Scots pines, there's oak trees, there's sycamore. That's a rink fort, and that is prehistory, so you're looking back over 1,000 years that rink fort was actually used to protect livestock. So we have a handling unit here that's relatively new, but then there's a rink fort that was used for keeping livestock safe that dates back many generations. So there's huge history on our land here. So we're going right up to the top of one of our drumlins, and we'll get a beautiful view, another view of the sort of landscape that we have here. So we'll see the lush grass, and then in front of me you'll see the village, and right around you get a beautiful view of the scale and the type of countryside that we have. And again you'll see one of our other flocks of ewes that we have here behind me. So that's an overview of our sheep enterprise. So I'll just go back to the Jeep now and we'll move on through our tour. So that's our sheep enterprise and the end of our farm enterprise tour. So now we'll head back to studio.
So welcome back to studio. You are live here, so please ask questions. There's lots here, so I'll get to them shortly. So the White House's President Joe Biden has an Oval Office, and here in Ballyhaise we have our own round room. So we'll go to some of these questions. Firstly, thank you for all the very positive comments about our campus here. We're only custodians of this beautiful landscape, and we take great pride, the staff here in the college, looking after that. So the first question is from Monica. How many students do you take on the forestry course each year? Typically 15 to 20 students, depending on demand. The forestry simulator Shane was on looked very handy. Is there other simulators? That's a question from Christina. There is simulators in Teagasc, particularly tractor simulators, and then also on the equine side there's various equipment used for that. Arthur wants to know about the percentage of boys and girls in the college here. So typically it's around 30% girls on the college, about 70% fellas. It is something that's changing over recent years, and the number of girls in the college has increased steadily in recent years. The next question is, do we use the farm produce in the college? That's from Emily. Well, we don't use it directly, but all our produce is supplied to local processors, and in turn all the inputs that are for our canteen that we buy back from those same processors. The next question is from Emily. Do you measure the biodiversity in the farm? That's an interesting question. It's something that we're going to be part of on a signpost programme that we're partaking on in the coming years. We have about 20% of our campus here is mixed forestry, and as you've seen from the video, there's quite a significant amount of hedgerows, and the place is rich in biodiversity. There's beekeeping on the college here, so the Cavan beekeepers has a long history of using the college campus for teaching the skills of beekeeping. The beautiful measured grassland from Martin, he's on about multi-species swards, and I might come back shortly to that question. So next we're joined by Enda Farrell, who's a very recent graduate of the college. Enda is the current Teagasc overall Student of the Year, something that we're very, very proud of. And we caught up with Enda back in his home farm recently.
Hello, my name is Enda Farrell. We're based here in Ballymahon, County Longford. I'm in partnership with my mother and father. We're currently milking 115 cows. We're new entrants. We started in spring 2020. On this farm, we're predominantly grass-based system. We do feed a certain amount of meal, as little as we can. We're trying to achieve 500 kilos of solids on 500 kilos of meal. That will take time to achieve. We've started off with a young herd of cows here. We decided that the best place for me to go was to Ballyhaise and do 2 years in Ballyhaise and get an advanced certificate in dairy herd management. There are good trials going on with the dairy herd in Ballyhaise. The 3 different herds, and you had your early turnout herd, your mid turnout herd and your late turnout herd, and you could see the benefits from the early turnout herd. The best part of the course I thought that helped me the most developing the farm was your financial planning side of things. We done up a 5-year business plan for setting up a farm, a dairy farm. It gave me great pointers, and I knew where to be looking into, what I needed to make sure I had right. Your key performance indicators on the farm, they were all very important. The advanced dairy course gave me a great grounding on where I wanted to go. It gave me a focus. I suppose I have a plan now put in place for the future. I know where I need to go, I know what we need to do.
And well done.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you realised how the competition in that there was over 500 people would have entered into that competition, and you were our overall Student of the Year here in 2019. Did you feel like that the competition was that fierce?
Oh yeah, I knew there was going to be a big competition. I suppose I never thought I'd be coming out winning it anyways, but lucky enough I came out the right side of it.
And you spent 2 years here with us as a student. Would that have played a factor in that interview process for that competition?
Yeah, I suppose it brought me where I am today. I suppose at home farming full time. Without the knowledge again here in Ballyhaise, I suppose I wouldn't be where I am.
And I was just going to ask you a little bit about what's it been like a farmer in Ireland with COVID-19 over the last year.
Yeah, I suppose it's a changed times. I suppose you have to be more aware of your surroundings and everything, and I suppose your discussion group meetings that we would have been involved with going out on farms, it's all changed now and it's all gone online, and I suppose Zoom meetings and getting used to all that sort of thing now, it's been a big change.
Yeah, and I suppose we always think here in the college of Zoom from a teacher's perspective
Yeah.
I mean, was that something that you had to help some of your colleagues in the discussion group?
Yeah, I
with?
suppose it would have been new to a lot of people, but then the way the thing is going, people are adapting now quickly and they're open to new ways of working.
Yeah, and what has it been like trying to mix with your friends and some of your farmer friends over the last year?
It's been changed. It's changed times, I suppose. No one really wanted to see anyone else coming into their yard. I suppose people were getting afraid of the whole COVID situation, and I suppose it was just more going online.
Yeah. There was one of the questions I mentioned that I come back to was about the mixed species varieties.
Yeah.
Is that something, what have you done on your own farm so far?
I suppose we're part of the new Teagasc signpost programme, and I suppose part of that is incorporating clover and mixed species swarts into your grassland. I suppose the main majority of the farmers in the signpost programme are just going to focus on incorporating clover into their swards, but I think in Teagasc Moor Park they're doing trials now in the mixed species swarts.
Yeah, and it's something we'll have to keep an eye on
Yeah.
and bring in once we get some of that information. There's a question here from Kathleen. First of all, she says congratulations, Enda. So another good wishes to you. What did you find most valuable in your learning experience thus far through your education?
Well, I suppose the whole business planning side of things, I suppose we had to do up a 5-year plan, and it was that 5-year plan that I brought home to start up our dairy enterprise at home.
Yeah, okay. And it always been critical in a conference like this. She wants to know, what would you tell us to do differently as educators if you were giving advice to us?
Oh, I suppose the thing has changed now, and I suppose it's all going online now, and it's just a different way of working now, and I was happy enough with how I got on in Teagasc Ballyhaise anyways. I wouldn't change anything.
And do you think you're going to interact with your advisors differently?
Yeah, well, I suppose there in the last few weeks now we've been allowed back out on farm in smaller groups, but there during the whole COVID it was all virtually.
And there's another question here, Enda, from John, and he wants to know what's the take-home message, the biggest take-home message that you would take from your education?
Well, I suppose to be open-minded and to be always willing to keep learning and keep trying to gain knowledge, and again stay involved with other farmers and see what's going on other farms to bring home to your own. Okay,
very good. Thank you, Enda. So we're going to be back with Enda shortly if there's any other questions as they come in. So we're now going to go and look at another video. Technology is a really important part of all our work here in the college, and when Microsoft approached us to see if we could trial some ideas that they had, bringing broadband to the rural parts of Ireland, and particularly our campus here, the parts that we had no mobile phone signals on it, we jumped at the chance. And Microsoft were here last year and made a video with us. We'll just have a look at that now. So in Teagasc Ballyhaise, we've been delivering education to farmers since 1906, over 110 years. And technology, right from the onset of the setting up of this college, was instrumental to what we do. And that's driving efficiencies, making our farmers better at what they do. We use the whole farm for training our students, so they could be at any part of the farm on a given day, and being able to have connectivity on the farm. I've seen potential for that, and when we were introduced to the idea of potentially having broadband speeds anywhere in the campus, it really opened up the possibility of bringing the classroom to the field. We have Microsoft FarmBeats package for collecting our weather data here. That FarmBeats technology can be expanded across the farm, and something like soil moisture deficits, which we've experienced in recent weeks, and to be able to make good decisions on what's going to happen with our grass growth with the Pasturebase, cloud-based decision system that we have. We also then use grass measuring. We have what we call a grasshopper that's linked directly to the handheld device. So as the operative walks across the farm and measures the grass, then that goes directly onto the decision support system.
For Airband and the help of the Wi-Fi in the Jeep out on the farm, I would have had to go out with a piece of paper, measure up my grasses, write all this data down on paper or save it on the phone, this would have had to be brought back into the office and then uploaded manually afterwards. Now what I can do is I can bring the Jeep out with me to the field. I can have my students with me as well. There can be groups of 12 or 15. They can be all measuring the grass. The whole data can be collected up and recorded online straight away in the field on site. So the student gets a real good insight of what's happening on the field right there at that moment.
I see cloud-based apps coupled with the Internet of Things and sensors as almost revolutionary and a huge potential for collecting data from our farming systems. And it's already making them more efficient, and that's really important to make sure that we look after our environment, that we have to improve our efficiencies constantly. So welcome back to studio now. So in that video you've seen how technology has allowed us to bring our classroom to the field, and you'll obviously agree it's a wonderful project and been very, very successful here in this rural part of Ireland. I'm now going to go to that field live, and we have Terry Atchison, one of our teachers there. Hi Terry.
Hi John.
Terry, one thing that we didn't really get a feel for in that video but did see was the whole idea of grass measuring. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of grass to Irish agriculture?
Hi John, yes, so I'm out here in one of the sheep fields in the college just opposite main reception. As you can see to the left hand side of me here is a paddock that actually has been grazed over the weekend by sheep. So this is what we'd call our post-grazing sward height, which is ideal. So we want to get it down to that 3.5–4 centimetres. Here where I currently am is with some of the sheep that are grazing this at the minute. The importance, or why we grass measure, is that we want to get the amount and the allocation of grass that we have to make sure that we've enough to feed the animals that are currently in the field. So that's really important. Also why it's really important is that it's environmentally sustainable to grow grass, and we're very fortunate here in Ireland that we can grow a lot of grass because of our temperate climate that we have. So the more that we can get into the animal's diet, the more sustainable it is for us. And then thirdly, the main reason, another reason is that it's a cheap form of feed. It lowers our cost of production. It's about 5 to 7 cents per kg to produce. So the more of that we can get into the diet, the better.
And Terry, I just see some equipment beside you. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this piece of equipment that I have here beside me is actually called the plate meter. So we would use this with students to show how to measure grass, and we use it in the college as well. So you'd walk around the field dropping the plate meter about 30 times in each paddock. What happens is this plate meter measures the height of the grass. So the plate rises and falls depending on the level of cover of grass in the paddock. What it does then is it gives us a reading on the plate meter. It will give it to us in centimetres. We then have to transfer that into kg and dry matter. And how we do this is we input this information into a cloud-based app called Pasturebase. This is made possible by the airband broadband that you've just watched in the video. We can feed it in any part of the college, any paddock, we can get access to this Wi-Fi. Whereas before we were reliant on mobile data, which sometimes doesn't work, but this is always available. So we can go into any paddock and measure fields that way. So as you could see, Niall was measuring this paddock. Niall, what cover is on this?
550 kg.
So there's 550 kgs of dry matter on this paddock. So that means we now know how much is here, and we can allocate that to the sheep that are here. So they'll probably stay in for another day in this paddock.
Okay, Terry, another question, and we did talk to Enda about it, you wouldn't have heard that, but we talked about mixed species, but we have done some work with clover, and we're going to do more work. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so clover is really important for the environment, but it fixes atmospheric nitrogen. So what it does is it gets the nitrogen in the atmosphere, fixes it, and the grass can then utilise this to grow more. The more clover we put in, the more grass we can grow, and it's coming from a plant-based source. So we're not having to get our nitrogen, our protein source from outsourced feed, which isn't sustainable for us. It also, as well, we're doing this as part of a trial here in the college. The dairy is doing this, so we're stitching it in or reseeding paddocks with clover for that reason. Again, all for the sustainability aspect.
And Terry, I suppose to close the circle from a college perspective, what about our students and what you've just talked about?
Yeah, so the students, once they come into the college, is one of their very first skills that they learn. So they learn how to grass measure, they know the importance of it, they work out how to allocate grass so that they can go home and bring this to their farms that they're at. So they know how much grass, they know how to do it, and they can increase the amount of grass in their animal's diet. Doesn't matter which animal.
And Terry, there is other ways of measuring grass, and maybe briefly talk us through that.
Yeah, so another way of measuring grass is actually the quadrant and shears. You can see, now I'll just demonstrate to us. So what you would do is you bring this quadrant out to a field, you put it into an area that has a representative sample of grass and cut this. And again, that'll be weighed in kgs of dry matter. So again, always, all the time, we talk about grass in terms of kgs of dry matter. So that's another tool that we would use here in the college.
Now Terry, I'm going to go back to Enda now and I'll be back with you shortly. Thanks, Terry. And there's actually a question here. James wants to know, have you taken technology onto your farm and how are you using it?
Yeah, I suppose since I left Ballyhaise, I went home and downloaded the Pasturebase app straight away, and we're grass measuring ever since. And I suppose it's a very handy tool to have to know how much grass you have on your farm at any one time. And the whole idea of utilisation, like what does that mean? Yeah, I suppose you want to be trying to produce as much milk off grass as you can. Grass is your cheapest form of feed, and I suppose to make farming more sustainable into the future, you want to be producing that grass as cheaply as you can and reduce the amount of artificial fertiliser you're using as well. Okay. And Terry, I might just go back to you quickly. There's another question in here. So that information that you've collected, that you've gathered, like how do you take that back and how do you allocate grass accordingly then from Pasturebase? Okay, so once we get the information into Pasturebase, Pasturebase gives an idea of how much the grass has grown. It'll also give us an indication on a grass wedge as to how much grass we have available. So basically each field will be in a wedge shape, the most grass in one down as far as the least amount of grass. And basically what we do is for any animal that you have to allocate grass, it's 2% of their body weight multiplied by the amount of animals, and that gets their demand. So really we're working at how much we have and then how much the animal demands, and we just divide one into the other to see how long that paddock would actually last us. And interestingly, I see the fence behind you. That's not a permanent fence, Terry? No, so again, that's a grassland management skill, putting up temporary fencing. So if you were to let animals into one big field, really what they're going to do is graze the nicest grass first and leave all the other grass behind them. And we want to get post-grazing sward heights like this, the 3.5–4 centimetres. So we had to kind of force them to eat down as far as that. So we put up temporary fencing and allocate small parts each time to make sure that they graze it out well. Thank you, Terry. And then a similar question for you. This is a challenging time of year for grass, especially the last couple of weeks. Like what skills have you? Yeah, I suppose in the last 2 weeks grass has really taken off around farms, and I suppose if it wasn't grass measuring, say, it gives you a great confidence to go and take a paddock out, say, where you have surplus grass, to cut bales off, I suppose, for your feed for the winter. Okay, and there's one. This is from James. In Ballyhaise or at home, using any breeding, calving technologies, heat detection, etc. Are you using anything? It's just mainly tail paint at home at the minute, but we're looking into, I suppose, going down the heat detection, I suppose, with collars or an ear tag or something into the future. Yeah, and that's something that we've done here in the college this year as well, to bring technology into heat detection. But again, tail painting is a tried and tested method. It's working well. Working well for you, and so that's our guests. So thanks, Enda, and thanks, Terry. So, and that's the end of our event. But before we do that, we're just going to go back to our musicians who have moved out to the front of the house, and they're joined there by Shane Carroll, a local singer, and you're going to hear a local song to see us out. And Marianne and myself will join you there shortly.
Have you heard of the fluter in the town of Ballymote? Times are growing hard for him, in fact the man was broke, so he sent an invitation to his neighbours one and all, as how he'd like their company at an evening at the ball. On writing out, he was careful to suggest to them that if they found a hat convenient to the door, the more they put in whenever he requested it, the better the music would be for banging on the floor. With me toot on the flute and me twiddle on the fiddle, up and in the middle like a heron on the griddle, up, down, hands around according to the wall. Sure hadn't we the gaiety, it filled the fluter's ball. There was Master Dennis Stopperty who kept the running dog, little Crooked Paddy from the Torrelene and Bog. There was boys from every barney and girls from every yard, the beautiful Miss Brady in her private ass and card. Along with them came Bounce and Mrs. Cafferty, little Billy Mulligan was also for the floor, Rose and Suzanne and Margaret O'Flaherty, the pride of Ballygullion and the pride of Petrovo. With me toot on me flute and me twiddle on the fiddle, up and in the middle like a heron on the griddle, up, down, hands around according to the wall. Sure hadn't we the gaiety, it filled the fluter's ball. Mickey Mulligan got up to show them how. Then the widow Cafferty took out and take a bow. I will dance you off your legs, you see, as sure as you are born. You'll only get the pipe or play the hare among the corn. Then Phil plays up to the best of his ability. Lady and the gentlemen all to do their share. Fate says, Mick, Gammy, you will have agility. Be gone and Mrs. Cafferty, you're leaping like a hare. Be toot on the flute and be twiddle on the fiddle. Oh, hopping in the middle like a heron on the griddle. Oh, up, down, hands around the corn to the wall. Your heart with the gaiety and fill the flute's ball. Then fill the flute or tip the wicked little crooked pat. I think it's nearly time to see for passing round the hat. Passing round the hat now and looking mighty cute. You'll have to play the piper now for tooting on the flute. They all joined in with the greatest joviality, covering the hop and the shuffle and the cut. Jigs were danced to the finest of quality. Behind Mrs. Cafferty, you're handling your foot. With me toot on the flute, me twiddle on the fiddle. Oh, hopping in the middle like a heron on the griddle. Oh, up, down, hands around the corn to the wall. And with the gaiety and fill the flute as ball.
So thank you to our musicians for that beautiful music.
That was a song by Percy French, a songwriter and artist from this region.
We'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon, meeting our students, having a look at what we do here in the college around our campus and getting a taste of Irish culture. Most of all, we'd like to welcome you back here to Teagasc Ballyhaise in County Cavan. If you're ever in Ireland, please call in and we can show you around. Thank you very much.
Thank you.